Section 13 of The Story My Doggie Told to Me by Ralph Henry Barbour. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Reading by Donald Cummings. Part 2, Chapter 4, A Visit to Jack. "Freya won't mind it a bit, sir," William was saying. "She's the sort that loves a bit of fuss and excitement. She'll show well, she will, sir." William always thought whatever Freya did was all right. I made up my mind to show them that I could behave just as well as she could, and so I went back to the carriage room. "Well, let me see how they act," said the master. So William snapped the leash on my collar and walked me slowly around in a circle several times. Then he stopped, and I stopped and stood quite still. Then he led me to the box and said, "Up, boy," and I jumped up on the box and stood there very straight, with my head up and my body stretched as long as I could stretch it. Then William took hold of my tail and lifted my back legs up by it, and felt me all over, and opened my mouth, and looked at my teeth, and went through with all the things he always did when I was on the box. And finally he said, "All right, boy," and I jumped down and looked at the master and wagged my tail. I could see at once that he was very pleased. "Why, there's nothing wrong with him, William," said the master. "I never saw a dog have any better ring manners than that." William scratched his head and shook it and looked at me in a puzzled way. "Well, sir," he said at last, "I never knew him to do it like that before. Seems as if he was sort of showing off, don't it, sir?" "Why, yes," laughed the master, "and that's what we want him to do." Then Freya went through with it, and didn't do as well as I had, because she kept wiggling all the time, wanting the master to speak to her and pet her. Girl dogs are silly that way. There's a time for everything, but they don't understand it. They always want to play when it's time to work, which is quite wrong. Well, the master was much pleased with both of us, and said that we'd surely be shown at the Oak Cliff show next month, and that he'd send in the entries at once. I ran off to tell Mother about it, and she was pleased too. "You must be a very good dog," she said, "and do just as William tells you to. And when you get to the show, you must mind your own affairs and pay no attention to other dogs or to people. I don't think your father or I will be there, so you must look after yourself and Freya." I was sorry Father and Mother were not going, but I was quite excited at the thought of Freya and I going alone, and I hunted up Freya to tell her. When I found her, she was looking very sad, and I asked her what the matter was. "I have a pimple," she whined. "William just found it. He says if I don't get rid of it before the show, I won't get a prize." And she absolutely began to cry. Aren't girl dogs funny? I looked at the pimple, and it was so small I couldn't see it at first. It wasn't worth bothering about. I had them 5 times as large as hers. Why, the time I ate the crow that I found in the truck garden, I had dozens of great huge ones. And William put some smelly stuff on them, and gave me a dose of nasty medicine, and they went right away again. So I laughed at Freya, and she stopped crying, and after William had rubbed something on the pimple, I told her what Mother had said. I thought she would be quite pleased about it, but she wasn't. You can never tell what a girl dog will do. "Oh," said Freya, "I should be frightened to death to go away without Father and Mother. I just couldn't do it." "Well," I said, "you'll just have to. Besides, William will be there, and maybe the master too." "But it isn't the same as having your own parents," said Freya, looking teary again. Suppose anything happened to us." "What could happen?" I asked. "Besides, I'm going to be there." That ought to have satisfied her, I thought, but it didn't, and she went running off to tell Mother how frightened she was. That was too much for me, and I trotted over to call on Jack and tell him the news. I found him in the backyard, eating a fine big veal bone. "Hello, Fritz," he said, pushing the bone to me. "Want to chew on that? It isn't half bad. I'm afraid I've eaten the best of it, though." It was very nice and sweet, that bone, and I settled down to enjoy it, and between crunches I told him about Freya and I going alone to the dog show. He didn't seem to think it was so grand, though. He kind of turned up his lip at it. "The Oak Cliff show," he said. "Oh, that's just a small affair, a one-day show, managed by the women folks. It's pretty good fun, of course, but even if you do bring back some ribbons, they don't amount to much." I guess he saw that I was disappointed, because he went on. "Not that it isn't worth while, of course. I used to go to it when I was a little fellow. You'll like it, and I dare say Freya will get a blue. You too, maybe. A red, anyhow. I have 5 or 6 blues that I got there." He yawned. "When is it to be?" "Sometime in June," I said. "Of course. It's always in June. I meant what day." I couldn't tell him that, though. "Well, you'll have a good time. Don't let folks handle you too much, Fritz. It upsets you, and you don't do so well in the ring. And don't pay any attention to the judges. Act as if you didn't see them. When I was a puppy, I was too friendly, and bit one of the judges on the nose when he was bending over me. I just did it in play, but I guess I bit too hard, because he made a great to-do about it and sent me right out of the ring, and I didn't even get a mention." "I suppose," I said, "a great many dogs go to it?" "Oh, about 100, I think. You'll meet all kinds. Don't have much to do with them. Some of them are no-account dogs. It takes all sorts of dogs to make a world, you know." 100, I said. "My, but that's a lot of dogs, isn't it? I didn't know there were so many in the world, Jack." Jack laughed. "100's nothing," he said. "In the New York show I've seen nearly 500. That's a show that is a show, Fritz. Maybe if you do pretty well at Oak Cliff, the master will send you there next winter." "I wish he would," I answered. "It must be fine." Jack yawned again. "It's rather good fun until you get used to it," he said. "Going? Well, come again. I'll drop over and see you before the show." So I thanked him for the loan of his bone and trotted home. End of section 13.